Hello all my Kinvians and welcome to a new Once Upon a Time catch-up vlog. And today I'm going to be watching The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And yeah, I remember this episode, or I remember a few big moments of this episode, the last of which not entirely sure I'm ready for, but those of you that have already watched the show, which is probably all of you, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, and I did want to say, just as a callback to the previous video, I was incorrect, as some of you pointed out in the comments. Prince Charming, aka David in The World Without Magic, his name is not James. That's not his real name. And in fact, his mother never actually called him James. I was incorrect in that. The father actually referred to the original prince as James, apparently twice. I missed that, apparently. But when he says his name is James, that is him taking on the identity of his dead brother. So, I've been corrected on that. Thank you very much for pointing that out. I really appreciate you all pointing that out, actually, because if you hadn't, I would have been even more confused whenever the actual truth is revealed, whenever that happens. Anyway, let's get right into The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, and I will see you all after the cut, whenever that may be. Enjoy your stay. A wolf. The heart is a lonely hunter. Yeah, not traumatic at all. God. Oh, God, that ending. It's so messed up. So messed up. And just when it seems like, well, I mean, not even it seems like, but it's like one person finally has their memories back. He's dead. Because Regina, of friggin' course. Before I get into my main thoughts on this episode, one thing that came to mind, and again, this is something that I don't recall ever really mentioning in the original video, though I may have. The Evil Queen. Now, as far as I know, she's only been referred to as the Evil Queen, Your Highness, titles, basically. What is her name? What is the Queen's name, and is it ever said? I can only assume that whenever the episode comes that reveals what Snow did that made the Evil Queen just vow this horrible revenge on her, that maybe we'll get her actual name at that point. But as it is right now, I don't think it's ever been said. The only person that I think of, or that I can think of possibly saying it, would have been her dad, back on the second or third episode. Can't remember exactly. But again, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think he ever said her name. He referred to her as Your Highness or my daughter. Something along those lines. If he actually did say her name, let me know. But obviously, if it hasn't been said yet, don't tell me what it is, because I want to find out. I'm legitimately curious. Like, what if... Well, I was going to say, what if Regina is her actual name, but I don't know. Regina just doesn't seem like a very fairy tale-esque name, if that makes sense. I mean, I guess it's possible, but I feel like it's a more modern name. I don't know. But to get into the actual talk about the episode, Gah, the heart of a lonely hunter. And I do apologize if I'm talking a little bit lower than normal. I'm in a hotel, and I'm pretty sure that across the wall from me is people staying here and probably sleeping, so I don't want to be too loud. But, first of all, the wolf! The wolf that, I mean, and this is one of the few times where the symbol or what appears in that opening little cutscene in the woods has a true prominent role throughout the episode, obviously being the wolf this time. It's like previous episodes, it's more of a symbolic thing or it's something that appears very briefly in the episode. But in this one, the wolf was a consistent aspect, not just a theme even, but a consistent aspect of the episode. And I don't know, I thought that was really cool that they, and I hope that they do more of those as the show goes along. Again, you all know better than I do at this point. But yes, the wolf. And also, being tied to the wolf, obviously, Graham. And in the intro, as he is quite drunk, but despite, Graham is desperate. He is desperate and more than a little inappropriate in that, one, he throws the dart at Emma, well, in front of Emma, because he never misses, basically. So if he had meant to hit Emma, it would have hit Emma. But he's being more than a little inappropriate in that he did that, but also he just kissed her out of nowhere. And yes, it does open up what happens throughout this episode with Graham struggling to recall these memories, which he doesn't know if they're memories or not, or if they're part of a past life, or if they're just dreams. But, it is inappropriate. You don't just kiss someone out of nowhere. I mean, some people may like that, but I can guarantee you the majority of people aren't going to like it if you just out of nowhere kiss them, regardless of whether you know them or not. Or, well, okay, maybe if you're married to them or in a long relationship with them. But that's not the case in this case. But, yeah, so him being more than a little inappropriate, but it is, again, what opened up everything for this episode. And of course that brings us to the Queen's Revenge, which, I already touched on that for the most part. I'm still insanely curious to find out what Snow did that made the Queen vow this revenge on her. And also, like I said before, what is her name? What is her freaking name? And going along with that, I suppose that we never do learn the huntsman's actual name. He is simply the huntsman. And if he has a name, it is simply Graham, because that's the only name he has. And unfortunately, from this point forward, Graham's clearly dead. So, no learning the past name for him. I'm sure that he probably, had he lived, it probably would have been one of those things where he reveals his real name to Emma. But that's a pipe dream or something that's left to fan fiction, I suppose. Alternate universe fan fiction. I wonder if there is alternate universe fan fiction for Emma and Graham, like where Graham lived. If there is, let me know. That could be interesting. Yeah. But moving on from there. The reference to Emma's wall. The emotional wall that she puts up. And just that conversation with Snow. Again, just this whole context of these mother-daughter conversations, like these adult mother-daughter conversations, that at the same time, it's like they don't know that it's mother-daughter conversations. It's like, talking about relationships and that kind of thing. It's such an interesting thing to see when, one, Emma doesn't believe that Snow is her mom, or, I'm sorry, that Mary Margaret is her mom, and Mary Margaret, has no real clue. I doubt that Henry ever pointed out that Emma was her daughter. Although, or was it brought up in a conversation between the two? I don't remember. ADD is fun and it makes you forget things. But yeah, so the whole discussion about Emma's wall, her emotional wall that she puts up, and I did really like the line that Mary Margaret had where she refers to the floral abuse. Or it's like where Emma threw away the flowers thinking they were for her. And was what she's denying that something is wrong. And she says, well, the floral abuse says otherwise. I like that a lot. Oh, and when Graham runs into Mr. Gold while he's gardening in the middle of the woods, right? Right. He might be growing something special, if you know what I mean. But Mr. Gold's line, paraphrasing mostly, dreams are memories of another life. And it's further proof to me that he still does have that recollection of the past world. I still don't know if it's a full recollection in the same sense as Regina. Like maybe he knows about the past, but there's some sort of wall. Whereas Regina still has all of her memories. Or if it's a deal where he still has all of those memories, but he just likes to play along. And knowing his role as Rumpelstiltskin, I think that is very likely to be the case. That he may have all of his memories, unbeknownst to Regina. Because, I mean, he's the one that created the curse, so it kind of makes sense in that regard. But I do just like this idea that he's letting Regina think that, you know, while he may have this one recollection of, if he says please, anything he asks she has to do, that he doesn't have his full memories, but he's just playing along and having fun with it. And in a way, he's really running the whole show. Or, yeah. Anyway, won't get too deep into it, but kind of my thoughts on it in that regard. I kind of do hope it is he has all the memories, but he's just playing along, biding his time, shall we say. Moving on from there, when the huntsman is brought to the queen's quarters, and I know I'm a guy, I'm a stereotypical guy in this case, but oh my god, that red dress of the evil queens. I keep wanting to say Regina. That red dress is gorgeous on her, and she looks gorgeous. Maybe I have a thing about evil ladies in a way, or maybe just intense ladies. I think that's more the case. I really like intensity. Also why I like him. But moving on from there. The huntsman and Snow, and I mean the several scenes that went along with that. One, when Graham went to Mary Margaret and just tried to make sense of what was going on in his head and seeing if she had any recollections of similar to what he was having, or like these dreams essentially. And you know, I mean, that leads down the path of him going to Henry and him learning that backstory of the huntsman and who he really was, whether he believed it or not. I mean, it was still all kind of a hallucination to him at that point. And that gave me another great line from this episode, and it's when, I mean, he's standing there in front of Henry, asks about the book, and he says, "Am I in it?" And I kind of wish that they had made a pan to Henry's face at that moment. Because I can't help but feel like when Henry heard that question, someone in Storybrooke, other than his mom, actually coming up to him and asking, am I in it? Not just him telling someone that, okay, you're this person based on this and all that, but no, someone asking if they are in the book. And again, not even his therapist, Archie Hopper, which, yes, I'm finally getting the name right. It's not Archie Hops, it's not Chester Hops or Chester Hopper, it's Archie Hopper. But because, I mean, he had been with him in therapy for a long time, so of course that would be something that comes up. But just someone who had no idea about the book, and most likely no idea that Henry was having these thoughts. It's like he probably knew about Henry being in therapy, but probably not what for, and having no idea about the book, all of a sudden coming up to him and asking, am I in it? I just can't help but feel like Henry's face would just light up, or almost just like a knowing grin appears on his face, even if it's not his face lighting up entirely. I wish they had shown that. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to check. Maybe they did, and I just wasn't paying attention. I would not put it past me.
Am I in it?
No. It doesn't cut to him. It's like, I mean, Henry has like a confused look on his face at first, but after Graham asks that, it doesn't pan to Henry. I wish they had. I wish just like in that last second when the sting happens before it cuts to a commercial break or whatever, it had shown Henry's face, because I feel like it would have been just this awesome little moment for him. So yeah, that's a little bit sad, a bit of wishful thinking on my part, but oh well. Director's cut in my head, let's say. Ooh. And after that, after he leaves, wolf! The wolf is real! Which, I believe, in the first episode, Emma did see the wolf, because that's what had her run off the road, or accidentally had her run off the road. And, yeah, so because partway through I was thinking, well, is this wolf even real? Because it's just kind of disappearing. But then, obviously, I recalled that, and also, at this point, she sees the wolf as well. So, I mean, it's real. It could also kind of be a spiritual guide, in a way, for the huntsman. But, I don't know. I can't help but wonder whether or not the wolf will appear again, even though Graham is dead. Like, it won't be enticed to him necessarily, but maybe as sort of a memory of him, perhaps? I don't know. But, yeah, just the wolf appearing again, just a consistent aspect of this episode as it goes along. And, of course, as this moves along, that's after the huntsman has had Snow White run off, and he took her letter. And it refers to the Queen's secret. The Queen had a secret that Snow couldn't keep, and because of that, she lost her true love. And this plays back into what I mentioned earlier this episode. What is that secret? What is it that Snow White did? I want to find out. And I don't think I'm going to find out until much later in this season, which drives me crazy, because I won't get it in this, in these catch-up vlogs, which is annoying. But oh well. And this line, when confronting Regina at the crypt. I guess it's a crypt? Mausoleum? Actually not sure what to refer to it as exactly. But when Graham confronts her, and Regina's trying to make it all about Emma, which, admittedly, she is right that none of that started happening until Emma showed up, or rather, Henry brought Emma to Storybrooke. But Graham continually points out, it's not her. I'm not leaving you for her. I'm leaving you for me. And it's such a good moment, and it's such an important thing for anyone to take to heart if they're in a toxic or an abusive relationship is like I mean, having someone to get you out of the situation, like leaving someone for someone else who does love you, that's great. But you have to leave for you because you are the one who is most important in that situation. You have to be making the decision for yourself, not because of someone else, not because someone else made the decision for you. You have to make that decision to leave by yourself. And I really like that they had that line. Again, it sucks that he dies at the end of the same episode. Regina. But yeah, again, it was a really good line. I really like it. And right after that, when Emma gets in Regina's face, because Regina just will not let it go and keeps blaming Emma for everything, they come to blows. And Regina socks Emma in the face. Emma socks Regina in the face. And again, I know I'm a friggin' stereotypical guy, and it's not something that's hot, but necessarily, but I mean it's two intense, gorgeous women. It's I don't know how to explain it. There's something wrong with me. That's the best way to put it. There's something wrong with me. But then, of course, that brings us to the very end of the episode where, unfortunately, Graham dies. And it brings up this very troubling idea of what happened to Graham, what happened to the huntsman, and really just the darkness that is the evil queen and Regina's heart or soul, whatever you want to refer to it as. It's like taking the huntsman's heart and making him her slave. I mean, that's by itself is horrible. Don't get me wrong, that by itself is horrible, a terrible thing to do. But that entire time, and she knew, because she has that recollection, she knows everything that's happened since then. He was still her pet. He was still her sex slave, basically. He was still her slave that she could use for anything, and she often did. And the episode made it seem like maybe she had grown some sort of emotional attachment to him, maybe. Even though he couldn't, because again, she took his heart. But it's so messed up. It really, really is. And I feel like that's a conversation that can be delved into more in another discussion, like, or even another video, if people would actually want to discuss that. But yeah, it's really dark and horrid, that whole idea. I mean, she murders people, she has people murdered, she killed her husband, she tried to have Snow White killed on multiple occasions. And it just shows that you can have someone who's evil, and I still think that Regina is not entirely evil. She does have a more human side to her than just when she was the evil queen. But there's not even shades of gray, but there's multiple layers to the darkness that is in there. There's multiple layers to the evil in a person's heart, especially hers in this regard. So yeah, and if I'm not making much sense at this point, I apologize. It is a little bit late, and I'm very tired. But yeah, God, that episode, it's such a good episode, and that ending still kills me. But the next episode that I will be rewatching. The last two in the catch-up vlogs will be Desperate Souls. And I don't recall what the episode is about. I mean, obviously it deals with the aftermath of Graham's passing. I do remember that I think I was a bit annoyed with the time skip that occurs. Like, I want to say Desperate Souls picks up a week after The Heart is a Lonely Hunter takes place. I don't know. I might be thinking of it wrong, but I feel like there is a bit of a time skip there. That it's like, I feel like we were a bit deprived of like the town's reaction to Graham's passing. But that's just me, and I guess I'll find out whether or not I'm remembering that correctly when I watch the episode. So everyone, thank you so much for being here for this catch-up vlog for Once Upon a Time episode 7. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you have seen the original Discovering Once Upon a Time episode, let me know your thoughts on like maybe what I had to say differently here versus what I said back then. If you haven't seen it, there will be a link over here in the last 20 seconds of this video, and there's also a link in the description down below that is there whenever you want to click it. That'll take you to that Discovering episode. And yeah, I'm just going to end it here, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode of Catch-Up Vlogs, Once Upon a Time. Later days.